Welcome, welcome, welcome to the SubHub podcast. I'm EmKay Sullivan.
And I'm Dani Moreno. And on today's episode, we have the Spanish sensation that is Sara Alonso. She is a runner for Asics, and she came onto the scene in 2021 and truly has never looked back. That was her first year trail running, and by the end of the year, she was fighting to be in the top 10 at the Golden Trail World Series final. She came back with a bang in 2022, showing that she was here to stay with a third place finish in Zegama, which was historic for that year, considering the times that were run by the entire podium. And then she backed it up just a few weeks later with a win at Mont Blanc Marathon. Since 2022, she has had a string of injuries that have taken her in and out of training, which if you don't already follow her on Instagram, highly recommend following her. She's very open about her journey, which is incredibly inspirational to a lot of us. And coming into this year, she was, running really well, strong win at Calamorro, one of the early season sky running races, was getting tuned up for Zegama, and unfortunately was diagnosed with some pneumonia. And so she was hospitalized and unable to race at Zegama. But we get all into that during this episode where she talks about that experience, how it pivoted the rest of her year, etc. So please, please, please listen to this episode. Sara, she always speaks from her heart and says it how it is, which is really refreshing. And what we mostly discuss is her recent fourth place finish at OCC in her debut. We talk about training, like we said, kind of the year leading up to it and what's coming up next.
Yeah, Sara is always so fun to talk about. We've interviewed her, I think, like 2 or 3 times at this point on the podcast. So we'll definitely include the links for other episodes if you guys are interested in learning more about Sara. But she's a generational talent. She's so funny. We love chatting with her. But before we get into our interview with Sara, here's a message from one of our partners. And don't forget to subscribe to the SubHub headlines, because we also interviewed OCC champion Meow Yao. And that was really exciting because we've had Meow on the pod before, but with translation issues, it was easier for us to do an article this time around. So I'm glad that we could pin her down for some questions and answers. So make sure you guys go check that out. And if you guys are enjoying the pod, please consider leaving us a review.
Hey fam, Dani here. Just a reminder that this episode is brought to you by our friends over at Never Second. Never Second is an easy to understand modular system that allows you to create the exact amount of carbs that you want for your activity. Their products are meant to mix and match, which personally I love taking advantage of. So you can ensure that you're getting 30, 60, 90, or even 120 grams of carbs per hour. I have been using Never Second during my build-up for OCC, and it is all I will be using on race day. Like I mentioned, it's meant to be mixed and matched, and I've been taking full advantage of that. I love the C30 Fruit Punch Gel along with the Berry Plus, so that means it has caffeine. I also alternate this with a mix of 3 scoops of the C30 Citrus, which is their powder, or the C90 Orange. So as you can see, I love mixing all of the flavors. I love that the sodium is very easy to understand. For the C30, 1 scoop, it's 200 milligrams of sodium. The C90, it's also 200 milligrams of sodium. So if you're interested in trying Never Second, I'm a huge fan. Like I said, it's all I will be using for OCC. Be sure to use SubHub25 for 25% off of all of your orders. Again, that's SubHub25 for 25% discount off all your orders at neversecond.com. That's NEVER2.com. Now back to the episode. Hey, Sara, welcome back to the pod. We're so excited to have you.
Hello, thank you. I'm fine to be here.
Yeah, especially coming off a 4th place finish at OCC. We are so excited to dig into the details, but first and foremost, how is your body doing post your longest race ever?
After the race, I have some problems in my foot, so I am not really running. I just run one day in the last 2 weeks, and I am doing a lot of bike, a lot of elliptical, and just resting and being calm.
How do you feel, I guess, after like mentally about running that far, how the race went, like where's your head at?
I have been like a little bit sad this week because it was like too many excited for being in Chamonix to run this race, and the last 2 3 months in just all the summer thinking about Chamonix, thinking about the event. So once that it's finished, it's like, oh, it will not happen until next year. Have been really, really nice and really excited to train for this. And now that it's finished, it's like the summer is finished, the winter is coming, and it's like a little bit sad moment now.
Yeah, we appreciate you sharing that because it's a very honest answer, you know, for a lot of us, it almost is the mark of the end of our trail running year in a way. Like I feel the summer is our winter, and then going into the winter, it's almost like restarting again. I don't know. It just feels like a very interesting time of the year to have so much focus on it. And a friend of the pod, Rod Farber, posted in one of his recent Instagram posts that like it's very energizing, you know, to focus on a race for so long, but then once you pass it, it's very exhausting. Like you realize how much it was on your mind for months and the building of the excitement and stuff. So feeling like a down after such a big pinnacle in your year is, I think, kind of expected. I feel like more people feel that than like, yeah, let's keep going. Like everyone's like, I don't know if I should keep racing. Maybe I should shut it down.
Yes, totally agree.
Yeah, I mean, even having like dropped out, so you know, like not getting that like finish line, it's like late enough in the year where I'm like, do I want to race again, or like do I just call it? Like I want to be excited about something, but it's such an end to the season, even if we have some extra time.
Yes, exactly. Now that I am in the bike, I don't have this same motivation. So it was like, I need to do a long ride. Like, how was I able to do the same 1 month ago? And now it's like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess let's start kind of at the beginning of the year before we get into OCC, because I know at the beginning of the year, your big focus was Zegama, and that didn't happen because you got pretty sick. So tell us a little bit about that. And also, was that the reason that you decided to focus on OCC?
Yes, coming from the last year with an injury, I was really happy this year that the season was starting like really good with Kobe and with Calamorro. So I was like really excited to come back in Zegama that the year before I wasn't able to do it, and I was feeling like really good and thinking about I can maybe win this race finally, but just 2 days before the race, I was sick. I didn't know what happened, but suddenly I was like big pneumonia, and I was in the hospital looking the race in the high cared uh, room. So it was like I can't raise the gamma. I was like really sad, crying a lot. But in this moment, I always was frightened for what will happen with my body because the hospital people say me like maybe I was 1 week there, but or maybe 1 month. But I was like, okay, I am frightened, I am sad, but I want to look more motivation moments. So I was looking the races and I say Mont Blanc Marathon is also a race that I really want to come back, but it's like 3 weeks after this, so I will not be able to finish or to be in shape. So I was saying I will go to OCC. That it was a race that I wanted to do, a race that my brand want to do, but it wasn't happening this year because it was like 50K race, never doing before, so I wanted to do it the next year. But with Zegama Mont Blanc not in my list, I was saying, okay, I like to run the races that the most density athletes are, the races that the audience, the public is there, like maybe you go to Kobe, there is like a really good level of established woman, but you are not feeling the same running in Kobe that nobody knows about trail running that racing in Zegama or racing in Chamonix. So I was in the hospital and I say, I wanted to run OCC, but I don't have my qualification yet. And there was like 3-4 races before the OCC that it was Lavaredo, Maldaran, that it was 55, like really technical, like 6-7 hours race. And then there was Corsica that it was 3-4 hours race. And I say, okay, if I can go to Corsica and qualification, I will go to OCC. And I decided there to do that.
Yeah, I love that you said that you choose races for the density. I think that's I mean you could tell because you always pick the races that have the most women that can win or podium, and I feel like you can get a lot more learnings from those races, even though they can be hard if you're not on the podium, which you have done many times. You've won these races. And I also find it fascinating that you say you love it when the atmosphere like loves the sport, because as your friend and an outsider, like you are one of the best like performers. Like you race really hard, you show your emotion, you like share really what's like you wear your heart on your sleeve. And so it doesn't surprise me that that's what fuels you, is having that kind of atmosphere. And so I am curious, like you had to qualify for OCC, but looking back, was the original plan to do Golden Trail? Because you already had the 2 Asia races, and I'm guessing Zegama was going to be your third, which at the time, the rules were that you had to have 4 races. And so if yes, that was your original plan, how did it feel to move on from that? Because you've been a pinnacle person in Golden Trail for the past 3 years. So to kind of like feel like you were not going to do that this year, how did that feel, making that decision?
Yes, in fact, my original plan was to do in Kobe, China, Zegama, Mont Blanc. And if one, it wasn't working well, go to Poland. But once that Zegama and Mont Blanc, it was impossible to do that. For me, the Golden Trail Series, I was doing that because I was really excited to Zegama Mont Blanc race. So if my 2 best races and my races that I love, I can do the circuit. I don't do the circuit going to America, doing a high altitude races again, that I don't really perform as well, that the atmosphere is not the same that in another races. So I say, okay, I will stop here the series. That is really sad for me because I have done the last 3 years this circuit. So I was like really motivated, like suddenly to doing OCC. So I was in Zegama, and then I was in Marathon de Mont Blanc in the same Chamonix, and people like, why you are not really sad? Like you are here but not racing, and you are training for the Valley. And I say, yes, because I am training for OCC, and I am like really motivated in this race. So I'm not in the same sad that if I wanted to do the circuit and thinking about I will not doing here points, I will not doing in Zegama points. So I was not really jealous because my goal changed.
So I'm curious because this is, like you were saying earlier, you were thinking like there's no way I'm moving up in distance until next year, like OCC is too far. But then you make the decision to change so that you can have this new motivation. How much has your training had to change to train for OCC? Because you're also somebody who's had to add a lot of cross training over the last couple of years just due to injuries. So how did you switch things around to be able to train for a 6-hour race instead of, 2 to 4 hours?
My first long runs after my big injury last year was before Zegama, that I was preparing a marathon races. So I started there doing a 3.5 hours trainings, not a lot, like 3 or 4. And then once that I was out to the hospital, the doctor told me like I can do intensity trainings, just long running. So in this moment I was not really training in like high intensity that the trainings that I normally do. I didn't intervals or whatever, but I was doing long runs of 2-3 hours, and I start like this the 2 months of preparation because I finished in the hospital in June and Zegama was in August. OCC was in August. And then I start doing long runs, but not intensity, just long runs. But then I qualified for Corsica and I have some pain in my foot, so it was like 7-10 days just in the bike doing 3 hours bike or in the afternoon maybe elliptical. So I did a lot of volume in the first month of hospital, but not in the intensity move. And then I start doing my first long runs with an interval season in July. And I start doing 4 hours training in really hot condition. And I think I was as motivated for doing that it wasn't really difficult to do that, because sometimes when you are not really motivated, doing a 2 hours run is difficult to do that. But I was like waking up really early in the morning, 5-6, because it was super hot, doing 4 hours run, and I was like, I didn't do that in my life. Like, I really motivated to do the race, because if not, I will not wake in at 5 of the morning in 30 degrees. And then also I do the last 5 weeks of 120, 110 kilometers and doing a lot of bike and elliptical. So my volume increased a lot, but I also was adding twice or once a week interval season, so I was trying to be a little bit speed. And in fact, I was doing like my best 1,000 meters repetition interval season like in my life, and I was like, I am not doing a lot of speed in this moment, but the high volume and runnings were helping me also in the speed. So yes, I did more kilometers than I have done before in my life, and it was last 1-2 months before OCC. And now looking what I can perform or do it better for the next year. Of course, I would like that not having injuries and doing these longer runs in 3-4 months before the race, and not just the last 2 months.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear that you had that experience, because similar to EmKay and I, you came from a track background and a lot of speed stuff. And I know that's a style of training you've continued to incorporate, as you do a lot of road intervals and you still hit the track and like work on your speed. And yeah, those years of that sort of intense work doesn't go away. And as you are experiencing, as you increase that volume, it just makes you stronger. Like you can actually hold those paces longer. So even if the pure speed doesn't get faster, like you can, instead of holding it for 5 minutes, suddenly you're holding it for 8, 9, 10 minutes. So that's really cool to hear, because that's been a really common thread that we've been hearing more and more, is with these 50K races like OCC. It's becoming so much more important now, as really fast like marathon athletes come into the sport, that the mountain athletes continue to work on their speed. And obviously that played out really well for OCC, considering that you came away with a 4th place finish in your debut. So good job working on that interval stuff. I am curious, like, are you still working with the same coach that you were a couple years ago? And if so, is it that he still is giving you the training, or is it more like, has it evolved into more of a partnership as you've gained more experience in the sport?
Yes, I am with the same coach like the last 5 years. And yes, now I know him better, he knows me better. And sometimes on Sunday, he put me the week, and I was like, I know that this week we are going to do like 3 long runs, because I know you and you know me. And I really think that I need a coach in my side, because if I do the trainings for myself, one can happen that I overtrain, or sometimes like I don't really want to do that, so I do another thing. So the coach that say no, you need to do that, for me helps me to go training and to go for more ambitions or to be, I don't know to say it.
No, I get it because people ask me all the time, like, oh, like you're a coach, why do you need a coach? And it's like, well, one, I'll probably do too much, or two, like some of the stuff that Rick gives me, I'm like, I would have never given myself a 4 hour long run with like two different workouts in it. Like, so I get what you're saying. And Dani and I are huge proponents, obviously, of having coaches that understand you, that you've had for a long time, because both of us have been with the same coach for, I don't know about you, Dani, but it's been like 7 years almost for me. So it's helpful to have someone in your corner who knows you that well. And so next question, a little bit of a switch up, but considering this was your longest race and like some of your biggest training runs, what was your fueling strategy going into OCC?
And which nutrition company do you work with if you work with one?
I am working with Babu, that there are a French company that they have like really natural gels, but then we have some gels that they give just for the trial elite athletes. So we have like some prototypes that I have using them during the race, and then the isotonic that they have, mix it in my water, because if I was able to have too many flashes in my bag, I was racing just with isotonic. For me, it's much easier to drink the carbohydrates that to eat them. And knowing that I didn't have done too many long runs races in my last in my life, I know that the people is taking 80 carbohydrates for hours, maybe 100, or maybe Kaylin that is taking 120. For me, it was like, if I did this, maybe I need to sit in the middle of the race. So I was a little bit scared about that. So I was taking 60, 70 grams of carbohydrates for hours. That I trained for that in my trainings, but the trainings were like 4 hours, the long run, the longest one. So it was like, maybe I should put a little bit more, but maybe if I do more, this can do the opposite benefit for me, and I need to sit. So my goal in the next year is these 60 carbohydrates going a little bit up, 70, 80, but for the moment, eh, I wasn't sure if I should do that if I don't train or do as much races with these long runs. And maybe then that it was super warm, I was like stomach problem in my tripa because I drink much more than I expected. So I wasn't used to drink as much. So it was like, wow. The last climb taking years, it was like really difficult for me.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's smart starting at an amount of carbs. I mean, we are in a high carb revolution, and I think that's important why you try and figure out what works best for you, like in races. And like you said, this was your first time to actually be racing this amount of distance. And, not everyone has access to the ability to have like real performance testing to how many carbs they have. But yeah, we are obsessed with high carb, but there is a certain point where there's too many carbs, depending on the conditions of the race, which can, like you said, debilitate you from a gastrointestinal issues, or you feel lethargic because you actually need more water. You start cramping. And yeah, so that's really cool to hear the approach that you take. And I agree. The race was freaking hot. Like, we knew it was going to be hot, but already before Triant, like coming into the second climb, the heat was already going up. And like yourself, I drank way more water than I thought I was going to take. And so I'm curious, like, for hydration, Oh, wait. Hydration during the race. How much were you actually drinking per hour, do you think?
Yes, I remember in the elite presentation that you say me, it will be warm since Champions League. And I was like, in my mind, it was maybe in Col de Blanc start the warm. But already it was sunny from the beginning. Maybe in the start it wasn't super hot, but it was sunny in the head all the race. So I am used to not drink a lot. Like I was thinking about, I start without water and then I take in Champions League water. And in Champions League I take less than 1 liter there, and I really arrive like in the limit in Trient. In Trient, I take 1 liter, and in the middle of the climb, it was like, I don't have more. What's happening with the water? So then I count and I take like 4.5, 5 liters. That is almost 1 liter per hour, a little bit less. And sometimes when I go 3 hours running here, that it's super hot, maybe I take 1 liter in 3 hours. So it was like super hot, super humid, and the yes that you are taking more, it needs to take more water also. So I really drink more than I was expecting, and also I was thinking all the race that I don't have more, and it was like, what happening? There was the aid station. I drank 1 liter, and in half of the next aid station, I don't have nothing. I have empty bottles. So yes, I think it was super warm. I didn't expect that. Like I was expecting hot in Col de Blanc, but it was hot in Champions League.
Yeah, as a spectator of the race, it was really interesting because, like on the men's side, when Eli left Argentière, he took 1 bottle, so half a liter, and Antonio took half a liter, but Francesco took like a full liter at least. He may have taken more, and I was like, Francesco's gonna catch those guys. Like those two did not take enough water, and sure enough, both Eli and Antonio ran out of water. They were cramping on the uphill, and Francesco was just running people down. And so I remember actually seeing you go through Argentière, and you were like soaking yourself. You were filling up as many bottles as you could. Did you make it to La Flégère with water, or did you run out there too?
I arrived to La Flégère with not a lot of water, and in La Flégère, I also put more water in my flask. That I was thinking it's just half an hour downhill, but I really need water in this last down because I was also started to cramps that I never have cramps in my life before, and I bought no cramps, 1 bottle for cramps, and I was thinking, I will take it because it's my longest race in my life, and maybe I cramping. And in the last downhill, I was really like, I think these are cramps, like this is painful. So yes, hopefully I have water, but I think maybe I should drink more. I'm happy because from the beginning, in all the rivers, I was taking water in my head, like all the way until the finish line. And from my background, I have like really bad races in the sun, like for example in El Hierro, in the one race that we do. And now that I am living in Catalonia, that is warmer, and now that I am trying to learn from the errors that I done in my last races, I think I can say that have been my best performance in hot condition I ever done.
Well, you also ran extremely well at Zegama a couple of years ago, and that looked really hot as well. So maybe this is
Yes, but
along with that one.
it was May and it was hot, but maybe 20 degrees. I think in Skyroom it was the same warm.
Oh, okay. And that one was pretty warm too. Yeah, the one race, it is literally called the one race in El Hierro. I mean, that was a one-off though. I hope no one ever has to race in conditions that hot. Like that was dangerous, borderline dangerous though.
Hey all, Dani here, professional trail runner and co-host of the Sub Hub podcast. Last year, after getting sick before a big race, I started looking into natural ways to boost my immune system. So I embarked on a little research journey, trying out a few different options. And you know what? I found myself reaching for one set of products again and again, and that was Beekeepers Naturals. And guess what? They are now a partner of the pod. Founded with a mission to reinvent the medicine cabinet, Beekeepers Naturals offers an array of immune-boosting products free from harmful chemicals and artificial ingredients. Their hero ingredient is called propolis. It's nature's defender of the hive, packed with antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals. While my personal favorite product is the throat spray, they also have lozenges, syrups, and a bunch of great options for kids. So if you're looking for a natural option to boost your immune system, consider trying Beekeepers Naturals products. And be sure to use the code SUBHUB20 for 20% off of all of your orders at beekeepersnaturals.com. Now,
I do want to ask, okay, so that was your fueling strategy, training, carbohydrates, hydration. Let's switch a little bit to the strategy of the race, considering that you were coming in, that this was your longest race ever. We both were messaging beforehand. Anyone who knew the women on that line that were lining up knew that this race was insane. And there was, 6-8 women that could podium, 6-8 women that could win the race, depending on the day. With the level of competition being so insanely high, how did you manage yourself during the race? Did you just have your race plan, or were you queuing off of what other people were doing?
My plan, I did some split times, but then I didn't take in count in any moment of the race. So this plan, it wasn't working for me. And then looking the start line and looking that I never done as long run as I did. And also because I didn't know my level in this moment, the trainings were doing well, the intervals, the long runs, but I didn't race from April, so I didn't know my race level, how it will go during the race. So I say, if I have a good day, I can do top 5, but I didn't think about the podium in any moment before. So my strategy was moving for the 4th, 6th position and going with the girls, because the girls will know more than me, because I didn't really know how I will expecting for the race. So we start the race and it was Tabor, you, Judith and Meow, and I was 5 there. I arrived 4-5 to Champions League, and I think I was all the time in the 4th position. I arrived in Trient in the 4th position. And after Trient, I was thinking, all the people say that the race started in Trient, and I was feeling quite good. So I think I will push a little bit more, and I passed Meow Yao, I passed Tabor, and I was in the 2nd position. In one moment, I was like, wow, I didn't expect that. And then Meow Yao suddenly moved really quickly and disappeared more, and I didn't see her anymore. And then I was with Judith in the climb, and I wanted to arrive to Col de Blanc in the technical section with her, but there was a point that you can take water, and I went for it because my bottle was empty. So I went for water, and you didn't do it. So she moved, and my strategy to follow her doesn't exist anymore. So I was all the time looking at her, and I really think that we arrived 40 seconds of difference to Col de Blanc, but I know that in the downhill she will do a move. So she did it, and then I look back and I say, okay, Ali is not here, and Tabor is not here anymore, and I was in this moment. Maybe I have the podium in my hands, I didn't see nobody behind, and I was like, I don't really think that I will be able to take Judith, because if I can take Judith in the climb, then she will fly in the down. So I was going good, and I arrived to Argentier, that there is 40K, that my race until this moment has been 42K, and all the people 40 seconds, Judith. But in this moment, I was feeling good, but not really, really good. And who is behind? but when the people didn't know who is behind. So how many minutes? The fourth. In this moment, I didn't see myself able to be second. I was trying to have this third position that I was like, wow, I will finish podium, but like I didn't expect that. Maybe in the bed dreaming, but didn't expect that before the race. And then in one moment, sometimes I listen Clementine and I say, oh, it's one of the women that I was expecting that she can come. And in Argentina and in the climb, there were friends in the live saying, Clementine is in the aid station, and I say, fuck, maybe 2 minutes, and I am really struggling here. Like the weeks before that I was training there, I was thinking, in Argentina, we need to climb in 44, 45, and in the race day, I climb in 48. Like, it's not really good climb. Like, I did some intervals there, and I climbed in 38. I have the combat doing intervals. So I think these 3 minutes, I really lost my third position in this climb. And once that Clementine passed me, I wasn't able to follow her 100, 200 meters anymore. So in this moment, I was like, I am struggling a lot. I am not really sure if I will be able to finish fourth, neither top 5. I don't know, maybe top 10, because I was really in red alarm in my head. It was super warm. I was not really looking well. My stomach was painful, and I arrived to the top, to La Fesser, and there was Malin, and I say, who is behind? And she told me, Kaylin, and I say, fuck, Kaylin is really good downhiller. Like, maybe you say me Camila Magnano, that is really good uphiller. I am not really scary, but Kaylin is one that you don't want to go behind you in the downhill. So I have there 2 minutes 20 from Kaylin, and then in the once that we arrived to Chamonix, in the road, I was descending the stairs and she was going up, so I see her. So I think I don't lose my fourth position because of the flat section of the. So my speedy and track background works me well, because we arrived from 20 seconds of difference and she take me 2 minutes in the downhill. So these 20 seconds of the flat section helped me. And I remember arriving in the river, people cheering, Sara, and I was like sprinting, not looking nobody, like I just want to arrive to the finish line. It was like super difficult last 1 hour of the race, like one of the most painful 1 hour of racing. I really enjoy the first 3 hours. I've never done as long races, so I think when it's 2-3 hours races, almost all the race is painful, but these 3 hours of the beginning race, you were enjoying, you were thinking about the technicals, about the water, of, here is Dani Moreno, or I don't know. And then the last 1 hour, it was terrible panic and painful. But the first 3 hours, it was nice and good experience.
You and Caitlin in those sprint finishes, man.
Yes, I was thinking like, wow, I don't know. I don't want another. I was thinking in the sprint of Madeira, like in this moment, I was not pleased.
Yeah, that was
Dani
wild.
Dani said the same thing when she realized that Caitlin was in front of her. She said, oh, shit. Caitlin Fielder is such a good downhiller.
Yeah, because when I
Yes.
was going up to the top of La Flégère, and I was like, maybe if I run the best downhill, but then I learned it was Clementi, you, and Caitlin. I was like, those are the last people I want to chase downhill. Like anybody else, give me anybody else, and I probably would have caught maybe like 1-2 people, but those are the last people I want to finish a downhill.
Yes, you did
And Judith,
downhill.
yeah.
Yes, you did an amazing downhill. You did the same time of Kaylin, and
Yeah.
Kaylin take me 2 minutes there.
I know. Yeah. Ran out of real estate. I am curious, like, because the point that we went through Triant to the technical section, going up to Col de Bomb, obviously this year, for the folks that haven't heard EmKay and I on multiple podcasts, this course was back to 2022, whereas last year there was no technical section. Like where they came back on top, all the technical parts was done. And when we say it's technical, it really is technical. Like it's very single track, very windy. You have to kind of climb up some rocks, go down some rocks kind of on your butt, unless you're Antonio Martinez Perez. And it's very, very technical and it's long. So last year it took them maybe an hour-ish to go from Triant to Col de Balme. I don't remember the quite exact splits. For us, it's over an hour, like an hour and
an hour 26 or something like
yeah.
this.
So average maybe 90 minutes in the top 10 for the women. And so when you're picking water at Triant, this whole section is very exposed. It's probably the hottest section aside from the climb out of Argentière. So the heat is like really hitting you. And that spot where you stopped for water, I'm curious because I have this same note kind of like in my post-race log, is I was undecided because I could see Tabor right in front of me and I could see you actually like right ahead of her, not knowing that you also had stopped for water. And I almost didn't get water because I'm like, if I can just close the gap to them, maybe my race will be more engaged. But I stopped for water because I was so thirsty. And so I was weighing like, well, if I don't get water now, maybe I'll die, before I even get there.
Yeah.
But it's hard because like in Sarah's situation too, Judith didn't get water, which I don't know how much water she picked at Triant. And so, Sarah, do you wish you didn't get water or do you think that was the right call?
I know because I trained there like 10 days before that after that there was a little bit of river that now I see videos of Caitlin taking water in this river, but I was frightened that the river were dry.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any water. So all the climb that I was doing, I was thinking the river, because I really remember there was a river. But when I listened someone there is water, in my mind it was I really need because I really don't know if I will be able to arrive to Col de Blanc in this situation, and if I arrive, my races will be finished there. So in this climb, I wasn't thinking about the pace or about the other woman. I was thinking, where is the river? Where is the water? Because after 3.5 hours, I was without water, and I was really thinking about I need water. And you are climbing, and there is a waterfall all the time in your left, and you looking that you need more water just to look in the waterfall that is super beautiful in your left. So I think maybe if I didn't take water then and I was with Judith and then there was the river, I can take the water in the river. But I really didn't know that if there was water in the river. And the same in the climb of La Flèchère, I was like really expecting taking water in a river that always is there. And when I arrived there, it was without water.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I take out my cup because I really know where it was this river, and when I arrived to the river, there wasn't water. So
Yeah.
I think I lost 30 seconds. I seen Strava like this. And it wasn't that I lost 30 seconds. It's like I lost the contact with Judith.
Yeah.
More than the 30 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah. It's those really interesting decisions in mountain running that you're making on the fly. Because I agree. I think for me, it's like you can't think about it too much. Like I needed water in that moment. And I also was worried that things were dry. And then your point to La Flèchère, men's winner Eli Hemming also was banking on water being there. And then just had a terrible climb like up to La Flèchère because he was hoping that he could also cool down. And so it's hard because like, what if there isn't water? Then your race is going to be detrimental at that point. The last section I wanted to talk about too was the climb out of Argentière because similarly, I ran it a couple days before and I was like, I'm going to run the whole thing this year. It's going to be great. This isn't as steep as I remember it, but that climb every year gets a handful of us. because I was like, yeah, I'll run this in 45 minutes, no problem. And I don't know what I don't want to look it up because it was really slow. And so looking forward, how do you plan to prepare for that climb? Like, can you prepare for that climb any better way?
I was 10 days in Argentina, so this climb I did like 3-4 times, and I also climb it when I have been training there. In Mont Blanc Marathon is a similar climb coming from Valorcin. So I was like thinking about in this climb it will be a really important moment in the race. And when I arrived in Argentina, I was looking myself fresh. But when I was going down, and suddenly I start to climb, and I say, okay, I am not as fresh I was thinking. And when it was more steep, I say, okay, I am really in a bad situation now, and I was walking half of or more of the climb that I was thinking I will be running there. The last section of a ski slope, at least I can see Clementine, and this helps me to don't drop out. But it was like really necessary that I know this climb, because if not, and I was looking only my watch of 600 meters of elevation, I was totally done. But like I know this climb, I was like, okay, now you have a little bit flat section, here you have the river, and okay, once that you arrive to the ski slope, it's only 10 minutes of climbing. So I was really happy that I know this climb before, because if not, maybe I was like, really? I only do 20 meters of elevation? That for me, it was like, maybe now it's only 50 meters. Like I was all the time 600, 580, and it was like 20 only. I was only looking the elevation, how many was until the top, and it was never ending. But at least I really know the turns and the flat section, and this helped me.
Yeah, and you've had some successful days on that climb as well, like back at Mont Blanc Marathon, a couple years ago. But yeah, if you're tired there, that climb is never ending.
Super warm, like
Yeah,
not wind, 1 of the afternoon, or when 30 degrees maybe, and it was horrible.
yeah. Well, you ended the race in fourth place, even if you had to outsprint Caitlin Fielder once again, and that's a huge performance for your first OCC. So congrats again.
Yes, I am like really happy. Like thinking about top 5, for me it was difficult, and something that I was able to think about, maybe I can do it, but I didn't think about the podium position. And also because the start list this year, it was crazy, and thinking about the time that I did is like a really good time. I was thinking about doing sub 6 hours, but I think with another condition of hot, I think these 5 minutes less, I can do it. So I am really happy with my fourth place, and also because the people that are in front of me, they are like World Championship, Judith Wither, and Miao Yao, like 2:30 marathon runner. And for me, being after there, she's like crazy. And also, if you are looking back me, like Kaylin, Dani Moreno, and also Ikran and Camila, that I was training with them the 10 days that I was here, I was like training with them, thinking about these women are strong. Like if I am not really run well, they will pass me. And looking then arriving in 7, 8 position also, it was super happy for me. So yes, doing top 5, it was an amazing result that I was thinking of doing, but I wasn't really sure that I was able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Ikram and your other friend Camila, I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool to see them too. I think they'll be ones to watch in the future as well. And I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, the field was insane, and it's such a spectrum too, because you have other folks like Tabor, who was having an incredible race, unfortunately had to drop out, who added a lot of punch to the front of the field. Ali Mack as well, in the mix. And so even if you go further down the list, like there's tons of women who have won Golden Trail races, world champions, like it goes on and on. And I will say, like, you have been in a lot of competitive races. How would you rank this race experience compared to other races? Because at least my experience was that it was just, we were racing like the entire time over the 6 hours, similar to what you might see in some shorter races. So yeah, I'm just curious what, on paper versus the actual race day, did it live up to what you kind of had in your head?
Yes, I think in this race, all the time you were thinking about who is in front, who is behind. Like my another experience, like for example, Gran Canaria, I was leading the race and the race finished like this. In Zegama, when I was third, Dani and EmKay they were there, and I was third almost all the race. In Mont Blanc Marathon, I was first almost half or more of the race. So in this race, I was fourth, I was sixth, I was seventh, then I was second, and then I finished fourth. So I think I done one of my best race ever, and I finished fourth. That it's fine. Maybe this 2 years ago it was a win, but now doing one of my best race and finish fourth, it's cool to see how much improving and how much technical and racing are in the race. That if you are not doing 3 kilometers good, you will move from fourth to the seven. And if the race it was 2 kilometers more, I am sure that I was finished seven because I was totally struggling the last kilometers. So it's nice to be this battle around the top 10 women.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to say I experienced that going back to 8th place and then having to work my way up. So what Sarah is saying is very true. If you have any off part of this race, you will go back a lot.
Yes. And if you listen to our OCC recap the other day, like the top 8 women's times would have won this race in 2022, which was the last time that this course was run. So like crazy day.
Yes, and also the condition, it was
so hot.
Really, really hot. And looking at the top 10 men's is 20 minutes and the women's is 20 minutes, also you can see that the race of the women, it was really exciting and competitive race.
Yeah. So I guess final question for you, Sarah. What is next?
My plan was in the middle of the race thinking about, if I finish there, I have my qualification for the next year and maybe I can focus in maybe going to San Francisco and finish the Golden, or maybe doing Gorbella and Ultra Pirineu. But once that I finish fourth, I say, okay, I need to qualify again. And the qualification races are 50K, 5-6 hours races that you need to prepare. Mentally, you need to prepare for, because now thinking about 5-6 hours is like, wow, too long. Like I need these 2 months to mentally being prepared and then physically too. So now in November, I will go to Mexico to Puerto Vallarta, 50K to qualify it for next year OCC again.
That's exciting. 2 6-hour races at the end of your season when just, in January you were like, too long, way too long.
Yes. Now thinking about another 5-6 hours is too long. Like once a year, fine. 2 a year is enough. Like thinking about next year, I think I will focus in 3-4 hours races, and then one of 6 hours is enough. But you really need to be prepared and to be motivated, because if not, the long runs are never ending. So I think you really need to be motivated for something to train for that 6 hours race, or for you 12-hour race.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Well, I guess you'll just have to finish on the podium next year so that you only have to do one 5 to 6 hour race.
Of course, I think I will try to do a good race and to be prepared. Not.
Yeah. Well, we're stoked for you.
Yeah, you heard it here, folks. Heard it here first, folks. Sara Alonso wants back in the OCC action, which I mean, that's pretty sick. I have an expectation. Oh my gosh, I can't talk today, you guys.
Okay.
I think next year's women's race, if the conditions are right and the course is the same, if it's not as hot, the whole podium goes under 6 hours. Because I thought that would happen this year, to be honest, but the heat just crushed all of us. And so even if it's like 5 degrees cooler, that makes a huge difference. And just through the grapevine, is that a word? The grapevine? Is that a saying? Oh, there's some more incredible names that want to join in on the OCC action. So I have no doubt next year's race will be as competitive, if not more competitive. But yeah, congrats again, Sara. 4th place in your OCC debut in this field where the UTMB index was insane. The finishing UTMB indexes were insane. I got a 790 with 6th place. Like, I've never been in a race where that high of an index is 6th place. And so, yeah, we can't wait to watch you at what qualification you pick. I think you mentioned it, maybe. Do you want to share which one? Okay, Puerto Vallarta. So for those fans down in Mexico of Sara Alonso, she will be there. So go say hi. And yeah, congrats again.
Thank you. I hope to see you next year there too, in the start line.
Yes. And if you guys haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to the SubHub headlines. Our email did go out this week without our SubHub stories, but we interviewed Meow Yao. So make sure you go back into the web version and check that out. And this has been the SubHub podcast brought to you by Free Trail.